Hey everyone! So today I'm going to tell you about conditionals, also known as if clauses. So I'm going to introduce you to the four types of conditionals, which are funnily known as type 0, 1, 2, and 3. Meaning that the first conditional that I'll tell you about is actually zero, and then the second conditional that I'm going to tell you about is actually the first conditional, and so on. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about the conditionals, how you make them, how you differentiate between each others, how do you know which conditional are you going to use, and everything. I have some examples and some exercises at the end with answers. Okay, so Conditionals, by definition, they describe something that might happen or could have happened. And the recipe to make an if clause or conditionals are or is the following. You have a condition, then you get the result. So condition plus result. Now the condition I'm just thinking about conditionals and then I'm like the conditional. So the conditional oh gosh, the condition always starts with a if. So if I do something, then something else happens, okay? Now, the good thing is you can decide to start your sentence with the conditional. Oh my god, the condition and then the result, or you can decide to do the other way around and have the result and then the condition. So this if part here can be at the start or in the middle, depending if you want to start with the condition and the result, or if you rather start with the result and the condition. I'm going to give you some examples in a second. So if this doesn't make sense just right now, it's going to get a little bit more clear, okay? So then you have the comma to separate the two parts of the sentence, and then you get the result. Now, the result could be a true result, a likely result, a less likely result, or an imaginary result. And depending on the results that you have in your conditional sentence, I'm going to have type 0 for the true result, type 1 for the likely result, type 2 for the less likely result, and type 3 for the imaginary result. So let's see how you make the conditionals, which are the types and all that stuff. Okay, so here we go. Conditionals. As I told you, I have the type 0, 1, 2, and 3. Type 0 are true conditionals, so the result is a true result. Okay. Type 1 is kind of an imaginary or likely one, like we are going to do something. I'll tell you more about it in a second. Type 2 is a less like result. So it's something that you kind of imagine that could have happened, but is likely that had happened. And then type 3 is a completely imaginary result because you know that there is no way you're going to get there, not because it would be something that would be impossible in the first place, but because you're talking about a past a past event, and you cannot change the past, at least just yet. So, conditionals. Type 0. How do you make it? So you have the if, so I'm starting here with a condition, the if, then you get the verb in the present simple, you get the comma, you say whatever the result is in the present simple, okay? So it's really simple. Type 0 is present simple, present simple. Type 1, you have it by starting with the if you start with the condition, okay? And then present simple, comma, to go for the second part of the sentence, and then you're going to say will plus infinitive. I will give you examples of all of these, just bear with me, okay? So type 1, the likely one, you start with if, present simple, and then will, okay? Type 2, it starts with an if and past simple. So the thing coming with a if is going to be in a past simple, comma, to go to the second part of the sentence, and then you would get would plus infinitive, the infinitive of the verb, okay? So infinitive just like the first conditional, okay, or the conditional type 1. And then finally, type 3 conditional, the imaginary one, is the if, again, if you choose to start your sentence with a condition, then past perfect, then comma to go for the second part of the sentence, and then you will get the would, have, and the past participle, okay? So basically, the conditionals that you have are dependent on how true the result is or may have been, and on how you phrase them. So present simple type 0, present simple and will plus the infinitive of the verb type 1, Past simple, and then would plus the infinitive of the verb is type 2. And finally, past perfect, then would have, and then the past participle is going to be the type 3 conditional. So I'm going to give you examples, and I made it on purpose that is kind of the same sentence, making made in all the types of conditionals, so all the 4 types of conditionals, so you can actually see the difference. Okay, so first one, so I'm gonna go, as I go down, I'm gonna go on type 0, 1, 2, and then 3. Okay, so type 0 conditional: if the weather is good, I go to the pool. So here I'm talking in the present simple, and then I go to the pool is also present simple, so it's a type 0 conditional. Now let's make it type 1, so I need a present simple and a will, okay? If the weather is good, still present simple, I will go to the pool. So now I have the will, and I started with present simple, so it's going to be a type 1 conditional. Then type 2 conditional, remember, it's supposed to be the past simple and then the would plus the infinitive. So if the weather was good, past simple, I would go to the pool. So this one, as I told you, past simple and then would and infinitive, type 2 conditional. And finally, type 3. If the weather had been good, so I'm now talking, as I told you here, in the past perfect, okay? I would have gone to the pool. So again, look again, would have, and then past participle, okay? So if the weather was good, if the weather had been good, I would have gone to the pool, type 3. So, as you can see, the sentence is all about good weather and going to the pool, but depending on how I wrote it in terms of verbs and how I phrased everything, and how likely things would have happened, then I have different types of conditionals. First one is a true event. If the weather is good, I'll do that. Second one is a likely event. If the weather is good, I'm likely to go to the pool. The third conditional is less likely. If the weather was good, I would go to the pool. So if that would have happened, I would have done that. And then the last one is something that is in imaginary, because it's kind of an impossible situation because the weather had not been good. So if the weather had been good, I would have done something. I would have gone to the pool, okay? So let's see if it makes sense. I'm going to give you again the 4 types of conditionals, starting with 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to give you again the same type of sentence in different conditionals so you can see the difference, okay? So again, just so you remember, present simple, type 0. Present simple, will and infinitive, type 1. Past simple, would and infinitive, type 2, and past perfect, would have, past participle, type 3. Okay, so type 0. If you get a good grade if you study conditionals. Oh, I also made it on purpose to now start with the result and then do the condition, so you know that you can do it either way. So you can start with the condition and then do the result, or you can do the result first and then do the condition. Again, it's fine whichever way you decide to do. Just make sure that depending on the type of the conditional, you're going to have the right form of the verbs, okay? Apart from that, nothing to worry about, all right? So, you get a good grade if you study conditionals. Result, if, here the condition. Now, present simple, type 0. Alright, you will get a good grade if you study conditionals. So this is type 2 because again I have the result with a will and I have the present simple. So it's type 1. Then next one, you would get a good grade if you studied conditionals. So this is type 2 because I have would and infinitive in the result and I have past simple in the actual condition, okay? And then last one, you would have gotten a good grade if you had studied conditionals. So again, here in my result, I'm having my would and the have, and just like it says here, the past participle, and then in the condition, I have the past perfect. There you go, okay? Had studied. So again, conditionals, you can have it, depending on the type, you can have it written in different ways for the same sentence, but the difference is it makes the result more or less likely. Oh, and again, you can start with the result and then the conditional, okay? Or the condition. So again, the first one is quite probable, is true. The second one is likely to happen. Last one, the third one, sorry, well, the type 2, which I'm referring here is the third one, is less likely because you would get a good grade. So it's kind of, you would have done that if you had done something else. And then the last one, which is completely imaginary because there's no way you can turn back time around and then study for the conditionals to get a good grade. Okay, so sorry. So let's do some exercises. So I have here 16 sentences and I only wrote the beginning. Sometimes I wrote the condition first, like you see in the first and the second one. And other times, like in sentence number 3 and 6 and 10, I started with the result. I want you to number 1, figure out which conditional you should put. Number 2, finish the sentence with that right grammar for the conditional, which again could be putting the if clause, so the condition part, or the result. Now, trick part. The type 0 and 1, they are both present simple, really. So it's a little bit harder for some of them. For some that I may want type 0, if I start with the condition, for you to decide if it would be type 0 or 1. But in that part, is one that you could have it either way, and I'll tell you that in the solutions or in the answers, which are coming next. So if you do not want to see the answers, and if you want to train the conditionals, which I actually advise you to, go ahead, pause the video, think about it. How would I done this, and that? So think about it, because I am going to give you the answers in 3. So think about pausing the video. 2, pause the video because spoilers ahead. And 1, I'm going to change the slide now. So pause the video if you want to try. And answers. So first sentence, I'm actually going to go back and forth maybe. So it said, if it rains tomorrow. So if it rains tomorrow, we'll go to the cinema. So that's type 1, okay? Because I'm starting with the present simple and I say, if that happens, I'm going to do something. Now, this one, I knew it would be type 1 because I said tomorrow, so I know that I'm talking about a future event, so I would have the will, okay? But sometimes between type 0 and 1, if I don't say which conditional I want, it could be that you could interpret it to be either way, either of the two, okay? Now, second one, if she was prime minister. Now, she started with, or they started with a past simple, so it needs to be type 2 conditional. So I need to finish the sentence by saying she would invest, would plus infinitive, more money in schools. Okay? Next one, it said you wouldn't have felt sick. Now I have wouldn't have felt sick, okay? So this tells me that I have type 3 conditional. So you wouldn't have felt sick, and now I'm starting with the result, if you haven't eaten so much. So as you can see, I'm using would, I'm using have, I'm using past participle, and I'm using past perfect. So this is clearly type 3 conditional, which again is the imaginary one because there is no way the person is sick now. There is no way I can go back and make it the person not be sick. I'm just saying if you wouldn't have done that, you wouldn't be feeling this way, okay? Now, sentence number 4, if it rains. So again, I have here a present simple. So I'm going to make this one as a type 0. The grass gets wet. Of course, you wouldn't know, and you could have made it type 1 and saying if it rains, the grass will get wet. Because this one, I didn't really give you any clues about which type of conditional. So you could have done it either way. It would be right, okay? Next one, number 5. If they sold their house. So I'm talking here about past simple. So if I'm talking about past simple, I am going to have type 2 conditional. So if they sold their house, they would be rich. And again, I used would and infinitive because it's an event, is less likely, but is probably what would have happened, okay? Next one, number 6 and 10 to go. If you miss, no, sorry, you will miss the train. So now I have will and, present simple. So this tells me that I have a type 1 conditional, okay? You will miss the train. I started with the result if you don't hurry, okay? So this is a type 1 conditional, okay? Next one, 7. Sorry for going back and forth all the time. If I had gone to bed early. So now I have if I had gone to bed early. So this means that I have a type 3 conditional because I'm talking about if I would have done something. I have here the past perfect, okay? If I had gone to bed early, I would have caught the train, okay? Of course, you could complete your sentences either way that you want because I didn't tell you kind of if it would be about the train or the grass or the cinema, but you know what I mean, okay? Then, so you would have to have the sentence right, would have, and then something in a past participle. Okay, next sentence. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. 8. If you heat water to 100 degrees, so kind of now I'm talking about something that I know is going to happen. So it boils. So it's a type 0 conditional because it's a true event, okay? So past simple, present simple, present simple. Next one, if it rains, again, you're free to decide how you want to make the rest of your sentence. I decided to make it as a type 1 and saying that people would cancel the trip. So you would have, if it rains, we will cancel the trip. Again, I do realize I didn't tell you what the next sentence would be about or the result or the condition would be about. You're free to decide for those ones because I just wanted to make the exercise a little bit harder, but but you can see in the bold part, so the parts there like a little bit thicker, the words are a little bit thicker, what you would have done or should have done in terms of the verbs, okay? Number 10 and 6 to go. I wouldn't mention it. So if I'm saying I wouldn't mention it, I'm talking about would and then I have infinitive. So it's type 2 conditional. So I wouldn't mention it if I were you. So the word must be, or whatever you decide, must be in past simple. Number 11. If you freeze water, so here I'm talking in terms of, oopsie, sorry, I'm talking in terms of something that is true. If you freeze water, it turns into ice. So that's a type 0 conditional. You could have said, if you wanted, it will turn into ice, and that would make it a type 1, okay? 12. If I had studied harder, so I'm talking about something that I could have done in the past, but I didn't do it. So it's a type 3 conditional because I had studied. So I will have here would have past participle, and I started with past perfect, okay? If I had studied harder, I would have passed the exam. Number 13. I will exercise. So I have will, so that tells me it's a type 1 conditional. If I have enough time, again, you could have said if I have money or if I want or whatever it is, because I didn't tell you how I wanted you to finish the sentence in terms of what the sentence is going to be about. Next one, number 14. You wouldn't feel so tired. So I have would, and then, well, in a negative format now, and then I have the infinitive. So that means that that's going to be, there we go, a type 2 conditional. You wouldn't feel so tired if you went to bed earlier. So because it's a type 2, I must have the condition in the past simple. Number 15. If you stand in the rain, so it's kind of, no brainer here. So I'm saying that if you stand in the rain, you will get wet. So that could be a type 0 or 1. I put it here as type 0 as you get wet, but you could have written as well, you will get wet, and that would be a type 1 because you couldn't kind of guess which type it was. Again, I wanted you to kind of not tell you things straight away. I want you to think about what you had in front of you instead of just saying, oh, type 2, so that's the recipe, the secret formula. And now let's go to the last one. And the last one says, if I hadn't been working, and then because I'm talking about something that happened in the past and is in the past perfect, kind of tells me that is the type 3 conditional. So if I hadn't been working, I would have gone to the party. Would plus have plus past participle, okay? So I would have gone to the party is a scenario that is not going to happen anymore because it happened before. So that what's make it the type 3 as well, okay? So, I hope the conditionals made sense. I tried to compress it all in such a way that you can see the differences between them, you can train them, and all these things. I do appreciate I didn't tell you how I would want you to continue the sentences in case, in terms of what would be the scenarios, but I really wanted you to just think about what conditional you could put there and to make it in your own taste, and then just check if it would be right in terms of how you make the sentences. Okay, so I hope it made sense, and up to my next video. Be happy and healthy. Bye.